immigration reform and immigration, what's the name, man? Official name of it is Immigration Weaponization. So we know what's going on around the country with 47, I can't even say his name. So he says he's import rapists and criminals and all the bad guys, but we know that he's not really doing that. Because we've got Emerson, who was a teen student at Dater High School that was deported, and Juan, who was a member at my church, in Nancy's church, and he was the godmother of Nancy's godson. So, we're not deporting the worst of them. We're deporting the people that are working here and paying taxes and being good citizens. We're just not documented citizens. Just not documented citizens, you can say. And I've got one living with me that I've helped. I'm graduated from high school. He's going to college now. He's in his third year. So there's a lot of good people out there that are at risk. So tonight we're going to discuss what we can do, what you can do to help. And we'll find out what exactly that is. So we've got 3 people on the panel tonight. We've got Farouz Naini, who's a lawyer, and a partner at McKinney, Naini Law. And he's been doing immigration work for how many years, Farouz?
Well, we do mainly litigation and some immigration for about 45, 50 years.
Okay, only 50 years. Okay. Just a short time.
I'm only 80.
Okay. Look good for 83. And then Samantha Sears, who's with Ignite Peace. And how many years have you been in immigration work?
8.5.
8.5 years. And Nancy Sullivan, who's a buddy of mine, who works for Transformations, and she does a lot of on-the-ground work in Price Hill. And how long have you been working?
And advocacy, just to say too long.
So I'm going to pass the mic down. How we're going to do this tonight is, if you have a question, there's some pens and some cards at your table. If you wouldn't mind filling out the cards with your question. And Matt and Lucy will be my able-bodied assistants here. And if you raise up your hand, they'll collect the cards, because we're filming this for the YouTube channel for Bolding Democracy. And we only have one microphone. So you can either come up and stand right here and you can ask the question, or you can fill out the card if you're shy. Okay?
The Greek myth where one eye that they're trading around.
So hang on a second.
I think what you need to know.
So what we're going to do, we're going to start out here. We're going to say, we're going to ask the panelists to give their name, introduce themselves, their organization, what they do in Cincinnati, like their elevator speech. And then how immigration, or what has changed in Hamilton County. I know it's a lot, but just make it about 2 or 3 minutes so people we can level set everybody, so we're all on the same page. You first.
Yes, Nancy Sullivan. I live in East Price Hill. My first involvement with Central America was before, at least some years were going to El Salvador during the Civil War there, 79, 80, being not a Sandinista, but a Sandalista in Nicaragua during the revolution. And I've been the director of Transformation CAC for 10 or 11 years, working both with immigrants, mostly Central American, in the Price Hill neighborhood, but also working collaboratively with groups like Ignite Peace and the Willis Project up in Springdale, and working on advocacy issues. And I think Samantha will be talking about some of those, but then I'm the one who gets to tell people when they call me to say my loved one was just arrested, how can I bond him out? And I have to say, ain't happening. So I'm getting those calls every day, and on the ground looks very different now, especially across the river, where all the 3 counties are working directly with ICE. So incredibly, just as an example, Campbell County Detention Center, which is not that big, is one of the 10 largest new, as opposed to reopened, like Butler County, detention centers in the United States. It was not approved by their fiscal court, which is their version of the commissioners. I just did a second FOIA with the sheriff and the jailer to find out exactly. But so you could be arrested for not having a license, and the judge says, okay, $189 fine, you're free to go. But guess what? You have a 48-hour hold. Next stop will be Indianapolis, and the following stop will be, hopefully, at least your home country.
Hi, everybody. I'm Samantha Searles. My pronouns are she, her, and I have the honor of being a program director at Ignite Peace, formerly known as IJPC, the Intercommunity Justice and Peace Center. So some of you may still know us under that name. Our nonprofit organization has been around for 40 years. We're celebrating our 40th year. And our mission is to educate and advocate for peace, to challenge unjust systems, and to promote the creation of a nonviolent society. So basically, my work is in two buckets. One is education, where we talk to the public about different social justice issues. We offer skill-based trainings, like nonviolence trainings and de-escalation trainings. We also have Race and Racism in Cincinnati, which is a people's history of race in Cincinnati. It's very localized if you haven't seen it. And then we also work on immigration justice. So there's the bucket of education, and then there's the bucket of advocacy. So once we talk about these horrible, violent systems that are affecting the most vulnerable, we then run campaigns to plug people in to help create change. So I'm going to give you some homework tonight. You've been warned. But I just want to say, I started in this position. I had worked on immigration when I was in graduate school in St. Louis. And I left the field for a while and then came back in 2017. So I started my job a week after the Trump administration, the first time he was inaugurated. So we've been through this before, but it is way worse this time around. They are looking for easy targets. They're looking for folks who are already in the system, who are in some kind of a process, so that they can build up their numbers and look like they're being tough on immigrants. And what's happening is folks that have never done a thing wrong in their life are caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, or are trying to do what they're supposed to be doing, and instead being punished for doing the process that they've been asked to do. So I have to tell you, it's been really, really hard. It's only been 6 months, y'all. And we're in for a long haul. And so I'm grateful for you all to be here. I'm grateful for you all for spending your evening with us. And I hope that it is not immigration, that it is an issue that you care about, that you pay attention to, and that you fight back on, because we can't just lay down and let this happen to the people in our community.
Well, my name is Firuz, and I'm a lawyer. We lawyers are irrelevant in immigration law. You are the ones who are important. Let me give you an example this morning. At 8 a.m., I met the wife of a Russian asylum seeker at the Butler County jail. She's an American. He's a Russian refugee who did not want to fight an unjust war and came to the U.S. And the wife and the father and family were ready to hire me. And I told them that it would be dishonest for me to take your money. I cannot help you. If I were to file an habeas on the behalf of your husband, they are going to take him away immediately out of the state, and they might send him someplace. They have come up with a law that anyone who has been here in this country for less than 3 years is not eligible for asylum. And so they are taking people and they are sending them to the third country. I said, at least here, you can talk to your husband by phone, you know, even though it is very expensive to call from jail. So, your role at this moment in history is much more important than what we do trying to defend people. Most of the day in my office, I have 5 people who do nothing but immigration in my shop. And we tell people there is no hope. It would be malpractice to do something for them. And, well, we can talk about the principal basis of philosophical basis of the current position, going all the way back to Carl Schmitt and the Nazi Germans. I mean, they are trying to nullify the 14th Amendment, saying that the people who were born here are now citizens. Carl Schmitt called this a state of exception, that the ruler can do this in time of crisis. Well, I don't know what kind of crisis we are in, but that's the rule here. That's what the Nazis did to the Jewish people, to gay people, to a lot of people in the war. There is not a scintilla of difference between what they are doing now and what they did in the 30s.
Can you say something about the inability now of people to get out on bond?
Well, there is a case. First of all, we have a judge here. If we are in Chicago, if they are in northern Kentucky, the court has jurisdiction is in Chicago. But the judges who were calling and giving bond in northern Kentucky, mainly Jennifer Payton, was fired by the Attorney General because she was giving bond. And even though she was one of the best judges over, you know, and we have a lady here who doesn't read at all the cases, and she refuses bond, and she says it's like this. And when she gives bond, violates the 8th Amendment because it's so high, nobody can. So, if you are in Ohio, Butler County, and you want bond, you're not, I mean, you can file a bond, it will be denied, and hopefully you will go to the federal court, to a habeas, and a stay, asking them not to move your client, and until the habeas is heard, and then hopefully, you know, but if you don't get Judge Black or even Judge Barrett, who used to be the head of the Republican Party, I mean, in the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is the king, Judge Barrett, who was responsible for W becoming president and was appointed by W, is now one of our most liberal judges in Southern District of Ohio. Go ahead.
Can I just, I'm not sure that other people, everybody is aware, so Ohio's immigration court is in Cleveland, which is a long way to go if you have to pay. And depending on where your immigration court is, you have a, you know, it's a throw of the dice. Here, I think it's about 15% of cases at the most, people get asylum. But if you're in DC or you're Chicago, it's considerably higher. Is that not correct?
In Ohio, if you look at the statistics, less than 1% get it. And, but in New York or California and Chicago was a higher percentage.
Until those judges get replaced.
Yes, I mean, a lot of judges have been fired because immigration judges are not what we call Article 3 judges. That is, they are not confirmed by the Senate. They are working for Attorney General. The Attorney General can fire them at will. I mean, they are like Social Security judges. They are, most of the rules that we are bound by are not applicable in immigration. Again, they are not real courts. They are hearing officers.
So we're all here, thank goodness, and we all want to do something. So what can we do? I know this will take 30 minutes for each of you to say, but give just a couple things that all of us can do.
I'm ready. I even have handouts on the tables already. One, I apologize, I did not bring enough copies for everyone, but I do have extra copies of the bright yellow sheet and the square action alert. So the bright yellow sheet is information about the Immigrant Dignity Coalition and its rapid response teams. So the Immigrant Dignity Coalition was founded in December of 2016 after President Trump was elected the first time, knowing that there was going to be a lot of challenges in our future. So the coalition began, and then I joined staff a month later. And ever since then, our mission is inform, connect, and mobilize. So we inform each other about what's going on with the local immigrant community and how some of these national policies are affecting us here at home. We then connect to solve problems, and then we mobilize for systemic change. And so we've been very busy over the years. We've run lots of different campaigns, but the one that we're working on now is called Rapid Response. Now, some of you probably have heard that phrase in lots of different contexts. Our version of rapid response is responding to large workplace raids. It hasn't happened yet, but it's only a matter of time. And so on that sheet of paper, I believe there are 7 different teams that have been working diligently to organize resources and people for that moment when a workplace is hit and a large group of people are affected. So you can scan that. We meet everybody in every capacity. There's a QR code at the bottom, and I believe a typed out link to enter your information into a database, a volunteer database, so that way you can be called upon if we need a notary, or if we need someone with a truck to transport furniture because someone has to move because they can't pay rent, or if you speak a really unique language. That's the kind of information we want to gather in this database. So please check it out. Please join one of the teams. The coalition itself meets on the 4th Wednesday of every month. So we just had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. So whatever the last Wednesday is in August will be our next meeting. It goes from 6:30 to 8 at Mount Auburn Presbyterian Church, and there's also a Zoom option. I have handouts about the coalition as well, but I didn't have enough to share. So if you're interested, I have the coalition sheet. I've got more copies of the rapid response. I also have a sign-up sheet for our email list. That is how you find out what's going on. Our Immigrant Dignity Coalition email list has over 800 people on it, and that is where the alerts go when there's an emergency rally or someone needs something. So it is a lot of emails, but there is a way to control how many you get. The other thing that I passed out was a little square about a law that is currently being considered in the State House. Now, there's a lot of bad laws out there, and I only have a handout that talks about one, but this one is pretty bad. House Bill 42 is a piece of legislation that would require agencies that receive government funds to collect the citizenship status of their clients and students. So that includes kids at public schools. Schools would have to collect the citizenship status of their kids. Now, it hasn't moved very far, thank goodness, but there's information there about what committee it's in right now. They're coming back from summer break, or they're on summer break, so it hasn't moved yet. But there's lots of other bills. 172, we just sent an email out yesterday, today, I don't remember. Time doesn't exist anymore.
So, as you may know, within the Cincinnati Police Department, it's written in their manual that they are not going to ask you your nationality for your citizenship. That's the same with Hamilton County Sheriffs. But if 172 passes, every single law enforcement agency will have to cooperate with ICE and in a certain sense be deputized to work with ICE. They cannot say, no, we don't. When ICE comes into Cincinnati, they do not even inform CPD currently. And there's a reason that CPD doesn't want to cooperate. In my neighborhood, where there are many immigrants, the District 3 has worked very hard to gain the trust of immigrants. And if you're not banked, which is the case for many immigrants, you carry cash, which means that you're often referred to as a Mexican ATM. No, you're not Mexican. So immigrants have been victimized by a small group of people who are happy to get ready cash. And knowing that they can call 911 and get an interpreter on the line has made a big difference. Obviously, if they're afraid to do that because they know CPD is working with ICE, they're not going to make those calls, and that emboldens bad actors to be even worse in the community. So, you know, there's a very practical reason that CPD doesn't want to cooperate. Plus, immigration is a federal issue. It's not a county, state, local issue. And Transformations maintains a 420-person WhatsApp group. So we can send out messages instantly to people, and I check sometimes, and within 90 seconds, I'll have 60 or 70 people see a message. And we have a terrific bilingual officer who happens to be Puerto Rican, who posts on there, and people adore him because he is very straightforward about what the issues are. But he will lose all credibility if all of a sudden CPD is cooperating with ICE. So for everybody's safety and security, 172 is a really, really bad idea. Right, so today, if ICE needs to come into a location and look for you, they have to have your name on what's called a judicial warrant that's signed by a judge. Often they will come with an administrative warrant that's on federal paper, signed by some, who knows who, sorry, I didn't have this here, ICE official. It does not carry any weight, okay? So if it's an administrative warrant, you're not obligated to follow it, unlike a judicial warrant. But with 172, that's out the window, and they could come into the schools. They could go into the hospitals. They could go into churches without a warrant.
Last Friday evening, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal in San Francisco, which is after the Ninth Circuit and the R6 Circuit Court, ruled unanimously that the ICE masked officers cannot go in the street and arrest people who speak Spanish, or they look Spanish, or whatever. But
That would be Brewster with that son.
yeah, I mean Brewster doesn't important one. But I really think, and most, in fact, a federal judge told me this morning that the Supreme Court will reverse it and give power to Trump to do whatever he wants, because that's where the case is going now. They have given him ungodly power. This is unheard of in the history of this country. And
Senator Fedillo
but right now,
has a bill.
sorry.
Fedillo has introduced a bill about mask but it won't go anywhere.
Oh, of course, I mean, just, they just approved a judge who was Trump's lawyer to the Third Circuit.
Yeah.
And he had told the Justice Department to disobey the judge's order. He's in the Third Circuit. But right now, until the Supreme Court stops it, if you are communicating with immigrants, tell them they cannot come and arrest you as they were doing in LA, because that was a response to all the arrests in LA. And they were just arresting people at random who were different. So.
So some of these are my questions here. So for Ruse, when we approach the city police, we ask them for their name and their badge number. And from what I'm seeing, if you ask an ICE officer for their name or badge number, they'll essentially try to do jump in a lake.
Well, so the Ninth Circuit said, like any other arrest, a police must have a probable cause. That is, you did something wrong and the police saw it. Just because you look different, like me, they cannot stop me and say, and arrest me. And that's exactly what they were doing in LA. And they were arresting, hundreds of, restaurants and, things like that. But the Ninth Circuit says you must have a probable cause. Like, for instance, if you are speeding and the police sees you speeding, they can arrest you. If somebody files a complaint against you saying, and that's one of the saddest things, a lot of domestic violence in the immigrant community. And that's very bad, And if somebody files a complaint against you, they can come and arrest you. But they cannot, once somebody is arrested by local officials, police, ICE usually puts a holder on that person. In Butler County, for a long, long time, there has been an ICE office within the jail. And so they put anyone who has a foreign name or doesn't speak English, they put, but in Hunter County, they don't. But if they put a holder on somebody, I usually recommend pay the bond if it is nominal. Because if the ICE is too busy to come and pick you up in 48 hours, by law they have to release you.
So police officers have qualified immunity if they follow the law and they arrest you. Do ICE officers also have qualified immunity, and why aren't these people being sued for arresting citizens and detaining them for 4 days?
Well, I mean, you can sue anybody you want to. But they didn't get, past summary judgment, by the federal government. If you're a citizen, and if you're arrested for no reason, by all means, my God. See, the civil rights lawyer, I don't need civil rights, but, my God, that, because nice thing about civil people say that we are in a position that we are in, that Trump is just being honest about what every Republican has been feeling and doing since 1965, Civil Rights Act. I go even before that. Every one of us in high school and read Gatsby. It was written in 1950. the first speech that Kam Buchanan, a rich boy with a mansion with a 28-acre in East Egg makes, is that the white race is in trouble. That we are taking over. I mean, if you go in the bookshelf of your childhood and pull out Great Gatsby, in the early pages you will see that. So this has been part of America ever since, that there is a fear by the Nordic people. In the 20s were the Jews and the Italian and the Irish. I don't know why Irish are not Nordic. But that has been the animating force behind all immigration laws. The Chinese, the Inclusion Act, everything. And so it's nothing new. One of the things, I think Trump is honest about his mendacity. Most Republicans are hypocrites about their virtues. Because the only thing that animates, as an outsider, I found that out a long time ago. A Republican, whoever that is racist. Nothing else. That was political.
Well, I was just about to say, as someone that works for a 501c3 nonprofit, I don't like either party right now. I'm serious. I'm serious. I wanted to address your question about why is no one holding ICE accountable. ICE is a federal police force under the Department of Homeland Security, and they are using the guise of Homeland Security to do whatever they want. They can say that someone is a threat to our security, and like the criminal legal system is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, and immigration is guilty until proven innocent. Because what happened in 2001, right? Someone from outside the country came and attacked the United States, and that actually created the Department of Homeland Security. It didn't exist before then. Our immigration system was under the State Department, and it was, about relationships with other countries and economic trade and people going back and forth for work. Like after 9/11, everything changed, and every administration since then has done their damage to our immigrant community. They say that Obama was the deporter-in-chief, and the reason why they say that is his system was very efficient in deporting people. President Trump may have arrested more people than President Obama did, but President Trump has clogged up the system, and so that way it's not as efficient as it was under President Obama. However, now they're dismantling the system so that they can separate people from their families for the rest of their lives.
There is a Supreme Court case on this issue about immunity of ICE officers. ICE officers, basically for sport, they shot and killed a very young boy at the border for no reason. He wasn't climbing the thing. The Supreme Court found them not liable, even though the lower courts, that was 4 or 5 years. So the majority in the Supreme Court, but they are Republican, whatever.
So we have a bit of the floor. Any questions?
Well, my question is, so there's an example called like here.
Go ahead and answer the question. I'll repeat.
Okay, so my question, I think you already answered it. My question is about qualified immunization. Basically, they have.
So her question was about qualified immunity, and Farouz already answered it about
Well, I didn't answer that for every officer, because there is a very famous case against FBI, and no less attorney than he was from Montana, one of those. He represented Amalgam Marcus. He tried hundreds of cases and never lost. He was a super lawyer. And he sued the FBI and he won. on this issue because they, attacked. In fact, he represented, there was a gentleman that FBI killed. They were holding in house. I can't remember his name. That's what his name. But, and they just shot and killed his wife and baby, and then wife was pregnant. In some small, in Idaho, places like that. And he sued and he won. So, I think ICE right now is sui generis. That is, if they're instituted by itself, I mean, that is different from all other. Because police is sued, cities and states pay a lot of money for usually when they attack African Americans for no reason. Like in Florida the other day, that video shows that, I mean, on that, not light on, and they beat the hell out of this poor guy, student, college student. I mean, the city and state are going to be liable, and it is the insurance companies that forces police officers to behave. It's not a fear of losing their job, because if they lose their job with Cincinnati Police Department, they will get a job at Butler County with a raise.
So I guess I want to bring this back. Are there other questions?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have written that, I didn't spot it, I written that one, but I think it's partially answered. Can ICE operate in the church without a law? You said yes, oh, absolutely. My question is specific, you talked about the widow programs, We have a hearing center where lots of Hispanics come from the widow program, and they're afraid to come.
Okay, so I would love to address this, and if I have some videographers here, I really want you to hear help.
Can you repeat the question?
So the question has to do with churches, and to take it a step further, what is a public space and what is a private space? So obviously, anyone can enter a church, anyone can enter this restaurant, and because they're public spaces. But this restaurant probably has an office, and depending on the kind of church, there's a sacristy, or there's an office, or there's a something that can have a private sign on it. So my goal, and I've written instructions for some of the larger Hispanic churches, for friends who go there, and I really want to make a video that could go viral. So if I were the priest or the minister, I would stand up every Sunday and say, welcome, everyone is welcome to worship here, whether, it's a synagogue or a mosque or a church. And we're happy to have you here. But know that, Charles or Juan or whoever is at the door and is keeping an eye out for some potential problem. And you all know that some of you may feel uncomfortable if ICE enters the building. And so there are rooms marked private where you are able to go. And currently, if you are behind that private door, unless ICE has a judicial warrant with your name on it, you are safe. Would you agree with that?
No. Because there are a lot of immigrants, and New York Times has front page articles about this, that court date for their asylum application to be heard by judges. They go there, they go inside the courtroom, they come out because they get another day, and bang, they are arrested right in the,
That's a different picture.
If they are able to invade a sacred place of court, when people are going there because they show up for the cases because they think, they know. But if I am not mistaken, the Archbishop of Chicago told a lot of immigrants not to show up, and they are excused from not coming to the. Do you remember that?
I do. I think he should have been better informed.
Honestly, not everybody is well
Question
informed.
the Archbishop.
I do. I'm an Episcopalian, what can I say? But what I understand is that restaurant, a church, a hospital, there are many public spaces that you can enter. But like in a hospital, you have to have a special badge and permission to go where there are newborns, right? So nobody steals a baby. And so the same would be true. And if they do not have your name, Greg's name, for that warrant, on a judicial warrant, they cannot enter that private space. But they can pull you out of the pew. So it's a matter of really informing and churches, mosques, and having a plan so that they know how to react. And the same would be true for restaurants. So my goal is to have restaurants, if I'm waiter and I'm coming to your table, I'm just going to say welcome. But if it's a table with Hispanics or Africans, I might say, please understand that, you might be a little uncomfortable here. If somebody is always on the lookout, and if something happens, we will inform you, and you can go directly into the office, which has a private sign. Now, I would also, if I were a good waiter, I'd be giving that table of Hispanic immigrants these red cards. So, your challenge is first, raise your hand if you know an undocumented immigrant. Okay, so great for you. I would first make sure that that person has one of these red cards, which has their rights in Spanish, but they're available in Arabic, in French, and in Haitian Creole, in many languages. Right, so she's very well stocked here. But my challenge to you is to go beyond that one person you may know and go up to a landscaper. Go up to somebody working in the back of a restaurant. Someone at Kroger's, and simply present them with a card. On one side, it has your rights in whatever the language, and in the other side, it says in ink, and it tells them to put it under the door, not open the door, so that if ICE happens to come to your door, they can see that you understand your rights. Correct? So that's your challenge. Is anybody willing to just walk up to some strangers like this crazy old lady does? Super. Super. I do it. Yeah, and so here's Bill Gale, and you could go into our Kroger's any day and do that. And I do it in the parking lot, I do it in our Kroger's, and people, and I'll tell you something, when 4 people were picked up at the Price Hill Kroger's, I don't know anything about 2 of them. I do know that I've spoken to one of them, and I know about the other one. They were really, really good people. They had no records. One literally was going in to buy ice for a soccer tournament. He had just gotten a FIFA International Soccer reporter's card. Last weekend, he got deported. He did his first international reporting job from Guatemala. And I know his family, etc. So letting people know their rights is really important. And I always say in Spanish, but it doesn't matter, we all have the same rights if you're in this country. It doesn't seem that way, but your challenge is to reach out into a place that may be uncomfortable and try it. Just try it.
May I?
There's a training, actually. Sorry, yeah, okay. There's a training on Monday at my office that is to teach you how to canvass businesses and give out red cards, as well as understanding the difference of naming a private space. So at Healing Center, or if you're part of any other organization and you want to learn about what your organization can do, but you also want to help canvas in the community, there's a training this coming Monday, the 11th, at 6 o'clock, I just looked it up, at Greenpeace's office, and you can find that information online at our website. I also want to say that I do have red cards in Arabic and in French, if you know any folks that speak those languages. And last but not least, I will say it doesn't matter if they're undocumented or not. Anybody, even if you're white, I think needs to have a red card in your pocket or in your purse. Because people are being racially profiled. It doesn't matter if you have an accent or not. So it's really important to keep those in your pocket.
I have a more practical advice for the churches. We have been going to churches, and in this time of hopelessness, we have been preparing powers of attorney
Yes.
for people to get a printer and everything, because if somebody, usually the breadwinner, man or woman, is deported or arrested, you know, they have a car, they have some property, you know, they need a paycheck, you know, to be collected. That power of attorney is very, very valuable. So, I mean, anybody can do it. There are forums on the internet on how to do power of attorney. If you are a notary, and I'm sure every church has a notary, they can do power of attorney for you.
We've also been doing those clinics also, so if you contact me, if you'd like to do one of those clinics to help people name someone to take care of their child if something happens. Also, I've been doing Know Your Rights presentations in multiple languages.
And I think the children question is really a big one. There are many single mothers here. So imagine that a single mother is detained. What the hell is going to happen to her children? Some of them, they're mixed families. Some are U.S. citizens. Some came with their mother from another country. So having someone who's named as a temporary custodian who can deal with medical issues, can deal with school issues, and really importantly, get them on that plane so they can reunite with the parent. And of course, getting them on a plane probably means getting them a passport. So there are all these pieces that most of us never think about. And I can tell you that for many immigrants, the scariest thing is what could happen to their children. And I remember in the first Trump administration when I was hanging out at the Willows, and early in the morning, and they picked up one person leaving an apartment, leaving the other parent with 4 children. And then the second morning, they picked up the second parent. And those, you know, as she came out to get in her car to go to work. And neighbors took those children in, but they obviously had no legal standing. And I don't know if anybody's ever sent a minor to another country, or even just on a domestic flight, but a young child, you don't just do it. There are a lot of hoops you have to jump through. So those are the things that Ignite Peace, at Transformations, at the Willows Project, and other groups are trying to think through. I think it's awesome that Bruce is talking about doing that in the churches, which is the most logical place. But it can be done in libraries, to sit down, and because of course, if you don't speak English, but you have an American-born child, that child's passport application is only in English.
So we only have two organizations on the podium, on the stage. on the concrete. So are there other organizations in town that we can plug into? Yes.
Yeah, so, sorry, I had invited Abdul Ngol, who is an elder in the Mauritanian community. So Mauritania was the last country in the world. Mauritania is in West Africa, for those whose geography may be a little, Mauritania was the last country in the world to outlaw slavery. Slavery still exists, even if it's not legal. And surprise, it's kind of a long racial whatever. So the Arab, lighter-skinned people have all the power. The darker sub-Saharan Africans are those who were enslaved, and some still are. Some here still bear the marks of torture. So how do you think they get here? I mean, if you're coming from Guatemala, it's pretty clear how you get here. You're coming from Africa, how the heck do you get here? Okay? Well, no, it's not necessarily stowaway, but you fly into a country that does not have a visa requirement. If you don't have much money, you may fly into Brazil. If you have a little more money, you fly into Ecuador. And then you can bus it north, okay? I have spoken to young men, because 98% of the immigrants from Mauritania and Senegal that we see are young men. I've spoken to people who walked from Brazil. So unlike Ariel Miller, who speaks way too many languages, I would dredge my French out of my distant memory, and then 2 minutes later I would come Spanish. Well, hell, they walked through all these Spanish-speaking countries. They speak Spanish. And so they're escaping. When Mauritania celebrated its independence, in the military barracks, which had a mixed population, the Arabs killed a bunch of their black brothers in uniforms as a means of celebration. So racism was not invented in the United States. We may have done a great job with it, but yeah. So these are young men, they're coming here, and many of them have a fair amount of education. So I was just hearing about a young man whom I know, because remember when that giant puppet came last year and came across the bridge? So some of the students with transformations also are with My Nose Turns Red Youth Circus. And they and some of these Mauritanians did a whole welcome thing for the giant puppet on giant stilts. One of those guys is so good in English classes that he's now teaching ESL, and if he can get some kind of legal status, he wants to go to UC as an engineer. Cincinnati and Columbus are the epicenter of Mauritania in the entire United States. And so we often think about Central American immigrants. You referred to a Russian. We have a lot of Uzbekis. There are people from many, many nations who are here seeking asylum. And I'm sort of speaking for my friend Abdul, who couldn't come tonight, but many of these young men are highly motivated. They're coming with some degree of education. They really want to work and have a future here.
There are lots of ethnicity-based organizations in Cincinnati, including the Mauritanian group. So you can support the Senegalese have a group, yeah. And most of those groups are part of the Immigrant Dignity Coalition I mentioned earlier. There are 60 organizations that are part of our coalition, and they're all listed on Ignite Peace's website. I would like to draw attention to 3 organizations, though, which provide their nonprofit legal services. And a lot of them have gotten federal money slashed and are having a really hard time, and we need our lawyers more than ever, even though the law is changing every 5 seconds. We need lawyers to screen people to see if they can qualify for any kind of relief programs. why they still exist. So those three are Catholic Charities of Southwest Ohio. They have a legal services department that has been doing great work. There is the Immigrant and Refugee Law Center. They are also doing great work and are in good relationships with Cincinnati Public Schools. And the last is Legal Aid of Southwest Ohio. And there's two different legal aids. The one in Southwest Ohio is the one doing the immigration work, and they need your support. There's also an organization founded by a fellow in Northern Kentucky called the 3R Fund for Immigrants. And their first goal was to collect money for bond, but now that bond is not being given out, they're collecting money for legal services and they give it out to families. So there is some semblance of a bond fund, which is the 3R Fund for Immigrants. All of these are linked on Ignite's website.
I'm a member of the 3R Fund, so we talk regularly and tear our hair out over the fact that it's very difficult now to even get a bond hearing, and how we need to pivot to provide other kinds of legal services for their families of people who are detained.
Well, one of the best organizations in town, well, Elizabeth Clapp is in charge of the Catholic Social Services. She is probably one of the best lawyers I know because I trained.
Yeah, that's Catholic Charities, as I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
I just have a quick, and this is probably a rhetorical question. I look around, we're all gray hair. How do we get young people interested in helping to move? They are they? Yeah. Okay. They're just online. Okay. All right. I see it.
If you come to a Democratic meeting, it's the same way. It's all of us gray hair. But when you show up for a rally, there's a lot of young people. Luckily.
Yeah.
At least I think there's a lot of young people.
I would say TSA, SA, a lot of anarchists are very, very active and involved.
Similar to that, a lot of young people aren't plugging into institutional groups, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. And Ignite Peace used to have a program called YES, Youth Educating Society, and it was for high school and college students who were immigrants or their parents were immigrants. Unfortunately, COVID ended that program, but they are organizing themselves now and have been running these Know Your Rights Power of Attorney clinics. So even though they're not in this room, I promise you that they are on fire and they are posting like it's their job. Some of it is their job.
Early on, Nancy, you said that people were reluctant to come to clinics where you were helping them with the power of attorney and so on. Are immigrants realizing
Yes.
more or showing up to get passports for their children and get these powers? of
Yes,
attorney?
much more. I think now that, thank you. So originally, when organizations held clinics, people kind of like that, this isn't going to happen to me. And then it started happening to their neighbors. So they really stepped it up. I was at the passport office at Aston Dalton Street the other day with a family who just wanted me to go with them. And the workers there, who were very helpful, said there's just been a crush. And now it's far fewer people a lot of people have really jumped on that. The biggest challenge is for, in my sense, other people may have a different sense, but the women who came here as single mothers with children, and who the hell knows where that sperm donor went. It's incredibly difficult for them to get a Guatemalan or a Honduran or whatever passport for their children. It's much easier to get an American passport for an American child if the father's flown the coop. There are a couple of other forms that you can use.
Well, if children came with a single mom and they were under 18 and they had some advice and they've been here for a few years, they should have legal status. Because, pardon?
Special immigrant juvenile status, or
Yeah.
you have to have a lawyer to get that.
well, no Catholic social services, more than anything else, you know. And Sukasa does a lot of it. And but the issue is that when they become 18, you know, then the mom would be divorced.
So it's getting close to 8:10, 8:15. Any other questions before we wrap up? So is there any other questions?
I was just wondering, Greg, is there any way we can get more of these cards or where?
Yeah,
can we
there's a
get
lot
them?
of them over here on the table.
Okay.
We'll have them when you come out.
Okay, thank you.
So for anyone who didn't hear that, there'll be more red cards on the table as we exit tonight.
And in different languages. Great.
So is there, Samantha or Peruse or Nancy, is there anything that we didn't cover tonight that you thought we should have covered?
There were lots of questions about ICE. I do think that the really scary thing is that the whole new budget bill means that they'll be hiring literally thousands of new ICE officers who will get a $50,000 bonus, sign-on bonus, coming out of your pockets and right off their college. I'm really interested in figuring out where those people are going to sign up and how we can do some direct action. We do know that going in front of Butler County for demonstrations means that they treat people worse. Butler County, by the way, has a federal civil rights lawsuit because their guards beat up on some Africans much more recently, so they lost their so-called 287G, which allows them to work directly with ICE. They have signed that for that again, and I know that an Ecuadorian was smashed in the belly recently and vomited blood. The brother of someone I know who was hospitalized for 4 days with a seizure disorder after being smashed in the head as a child by soldiers in Guatemala, was picked up outside of a store and never ever got the seizure medications that he was prescribed.
Anything else?
I wanted just some advice, well, a couple of things. I talk to a lot of people who are disillusioned with our elected leaders right now, and rightly so, okay? A phrase, I don't know if I came up with it or someone else in the meeting, be a gnat. Be a gnat in their ear. Make sure you voice your displeasure at what is happening, because if you are silent, then our elected officials think that you're okay with what is happening. Even if we can't sway a vote, it is important to be a gnat in their ear. Even, it doesn't matter what party they are. I mean, there's a lot of Democrats that need to be standing up right now, and they're just letting people be steamrolled.
Like Moreno and Houston that we know aren't going to be on our side.
Be a gnat. Still call them. Still call them. The last thing I want to say, and I speak from this from a personal point of view, I have never struggled with my mental health more than I have in the last 6 months. You all need to take care of yourselves. They want you to be exhausted. They want you to give up. They want you to complain. They don't want you to be in community with each other or learn from each other. So, please know that we have your back, and I hope you have mine, and that to really listen to your body, and your mind is part of that, and take care of yourself.
I think we progressives need to examine why we failed. When over 30% of the Hispanics vote for Trump, when the most democratic region of Texas goes heavily for Trump, and mostly Hispanic, around San Antonio, where a lot of the people of Arab heritage in Michigan voted for Trump. actually elected Trump by giving him mission. We as progressive have failed. I don't know what it is that we are doing. We are alienating the voters. And I don't know what it is. I'm not a, I mean, I wish if I were smart, I would be an analyst, but you know.
So Lucy,
Greg, I just want to,
Wait, there's a question over here.
I just want to point out something before you leave. There's a take action on your table, and to Samantha's point, please be in that. There's information at the top about Ignite Peace and how you can get connected to all the rapid response teams. There's information at the top about Transformations, which is Nancy's organization. There's information about Imam Solomon, if you want to get connected with that issue. And then there's information about all the horrible bills that are anti-immigrant bills in the Ohio legislature, and people you can contact. You can go home tonight, make a phone call. There's phone calls on, there's both websites and phone numbers on here, and be damn that in somebody's ear, and be consistent about that, because we've got to speak out.
Prior comment to this comment. We can't underestimate the influence of racism and sexism that went on in this country. I mean, they did not want an African-American female. Plain and simple. And all the propaganda that went into that said, do not pick illegal. And so, here's where we are.
She was talking about cross-race and that.
so just two more advertisements. One is, finally in Cincinnati, we have a progressive website that has listed all the progressive organizations in one spot, with the calendar where you know that an event is coming up, a rally is coming up, a protest. It's standupcincy.com. Standupcincy.com. Yes, C-I-N-C-Y. So
I just want to add, I really hope I'm grabbing this, stand up since, forget it. Who here knows that we're in the process of constructing an over $30 million cop city right here in Cincinnati? Cop city. So, stay tuned. I think you all really need to know about this.
This is the regional public safety training center.
That's one way to describe it.
Where the gun range is moving away from Lincoln Heights.
Yes, 30 acres, $30 million plus.
So maybe this will be another bold talk, but
Yes.
this is my other advertisement, that this was the first in a series of bold talks for Bold New Democracy. And then we have 3 more coming. So the next one is on September the 8th, it will be here on that, I believe it's a Monday night at 7 o'clock. It's about redistricting reform in Ohio, how they're trying to screw it up again. They're going to gerrymander Greg Lansing's district, trying to straighten out the balls. So be careful for that. Then the one after that is October the 13th, State House scrutiny, how you can react to the state legislature. We hope they have Rachel Boyle here. She gives a great speech about how you can talk to your state legislature. They get very few phone calls. So if they get 10 phone calls, that's a lot for them. And they think that all hell's breaking. So just, again, be a nap to them. And finally, on November the 10th, after the election, when we win, will be the big, beautiful bill of it. So get ready for those 3 coming up. So thank you all for coming. I hope it wasn't too depressing for you to hear all the bad news, but there's things that we can do. So thank you very much. Thanks everyone.